Follow your spirit. That conscience that's talking to you that you be ignoring, that's telling you the right thing, I always feel like that's God talking to you. So if it don't feel good in your spirit when you're doing it, whatever that may be, and this is applicable in whatever situation it is in life, if it don't feel right in your spirit and it's not going to make you feel good after and not like an hour after, I'm talking about weeks, months, years
Can't
after,
live with it.
Don't do it.
What's up, y'all? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Let It Be the Podcast. I'm your host, Fergie, and today I have a special guest with me today. I got Mr. Brian B. Shynin. Brian, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm blessed.
And I also want to shout out MADE MOBB KC. Thank you so much for letting me use your space. Love the store. If y'all in Kansas City or if you come and you visit Kansas City, you got to hit up MADE MOBB right off of Southwest Traffic Way in Kansas City.
Yeah, and they got husky size too.
They got husky size. They got a lot of dope stuff in here.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be on Instagram like, look, I'm about to spend all my money. Okay.
Yeah, especially with like football season, they got, of course, Kansas City Chiefs merch.
Yep.
MADE MOBB.
And even, I've been gone for a little bit, but we got a soccer team. That teal color, I love that teal. When that was out, I was like, oh, okay, I need to come and hit up MADE MOBB. So shout out to y'all. Thank you for letting me use your space. But Mr. Brian B. Shynin, thank you so much for joining me.
Appreciate you, man. How you feeling?
I am blessed. That's what I can say. I am blessed. I'm excited. When I thought about, like I said, I have people who have been in my life, who I've crossed paths with, who I've learned something from. And I'm like, dang, I really want to make it a point. Like, even though I live in Dallas now, it's like Kansas City is my home. And you never forget the people who've helped you, who you've connected with, who've impacted your life along the way. And so for me, it was very important for me to have those people, and you are one of them.
Really? I appreciate that.
Yeah, you never know, like, the seeds that you plant. I still remember, I want to get into that, like, how we actually met each other.
Okay.
But, like, you just never know the seeds that you plant, or you never know who's watching you from afar. Like, dang. You can do it. I can do it.
Can you recall? Like, I don't remember the first time we met.
Well, I remember the first time I recognized you is because you're a radio personality in Kansas City, and so I used to. I mean, we got the same alma mater, so like we went to school together. But like, people know you as Mr. Kansas City, Mr. Hot 103 Jamz. Like, when I think of KC, I think of Brian B. Shynin. For real, your voice is very familiar, and so that's when I first noticed you, and I would listen afar, but I had an internship at Hot 103.
Yeah. And
so that's really how we got connected.
Okay, see, I remember that, but I thought you was mentioning, like, I thought you remember the first, like, day.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Just, like, remembering, I mean, seeing you out in the city or something is one thing, but.
Yeah. Nah, you stood out to me. It was like 2014, 2015, 16, somewhere around there.
14?
Yeah, you stood out. Like, people, like, you'll get interns, and this decreased over the years, but like, you used to get a group of interns, you'd be like, all right, so that one, they ain't gonna be here before a couple months or whatever, because they're not showing up and they're not, doing the things asked or whatever. But then you got certain ones that you see is like, okay, yeah, she's ambitious, she's a go-getter, like, she probably gonna stick around or whatever, or she gonna find her way somewhere.
Yeah.
And I always thought that you were just extremely assertive with what you wanted to do. Like, whether you pursued it or not, it was like, when you went after it, you went after it.
Yeah.
So,
that's kind of one thing about me. Like, if I have something in my mind, I'm going to do it by any means necessary. And I don't know if that's always a good thing or not, but when my mind is set, then it's just set.
I feel you on that.
But I remember being new, because like I used to do radio in college, and I was like, well, what do I do? Like, after college, like, how do I make this work? And I'm like, well, what do you see? And so, like, people that I looked up to, you, Julie Jones, and I was just like, oh, okay. So I always observe, like, I don't know, you probably are not going to remember this, but you taught me how to edit, like, audio.
For real? Mm-hmm. That's what's up.
Yeah, you taught me how to.
One of the dungeons at CBG.
Literally, you taught me how to do that. And so I was just like, oh, okay. And I remember one time I was asking So I never like to talk about the actual opportunity in Houston, but I was trying to find I'm leaving Kansas City, but I want to go somewhere. And I got connected to a radio station in Houston because like you recommended, you were just saying, like I was asking, I forgot who we were talking to, but I had asked a question and I took out my phone to take notes, and you kind of was like, see how she taking notes? Like she wanted a good one. I always remembered that. So I'm like, cool. Like I take like, I feel like I got Brian's stamp. So I'm like, okay, I got to do a good job with this now. So that's when I remember us connecting. You just never know.
That I didn't know. Like, I appreciate you sharing that for real. But just how I go about life, and especially with younger people, I just try to always spread a positive word with them and not try to point my finger at them, even if they're so-called doing wrong. Like, I always try to encourage and uplift. Because being young and being of the youth is not being of total knowledge.
Yeah.
And so if I'm older than you and I know better and I don't tell you better, I feel like I'm not doing my job as, first off, what God called me to do, but just being like a big homie.
Yeah.
And I take, like I say, your big homie, Brian, like I take that big homie stuff serious because I know now, almost being 40, I'm older than a lot of people who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And the platform that I do have and that we do share at 103 is like, it does mean something. Mm-hmm. So the influence in itself has to be positive for me.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just always how I've always carried myself. And I'm glad I never knew any of this.
Yeah.
And it means the world to me that happened.
Don't make me cry, but for real, like, and I take like what I've learned just with creating a platform, because like you have influence if one person is watching you, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I've learned like it's not about the numbers, but you just don't know. Like you could be somebody's goals and not even know it, you know? And so I take that serious. I take my platform serious. I take like just having integrity and like how you are on camera versus off. Like all of that matters to me. You know what I'm saying? I learned really quick that this is not just about, hey, setting up a camera and talking. Like that's why like my platform, what I share, I always want to have a positive impact, you know, like, so I like to talk about your origin stories. Like how did people get into this? Because we always admire the glam, but you don't know the story that you walked to get there. You don't know what you have to talk about. You don't know how you have to persevere. And so that's something that I would like when I thought about it, I'm like, dang, we see Brian everywhere. You with the Chiefs, with Travis Kelce, with all the people. Okay. So I'm like, how did you get there? So that's kind of what I want to know. Like before the world knew Brian be Shynin, like who is Brian? What did you want to do when you were younger? Like, did you see this for yourself?
Man, it was a conversation that I had with my father one day because I never, and it was when I was 14, it was my freshman year. I was at Paseo High School, Paseo Academy of Performing Arts to be exact, you know. But before I was 14, I wasn't really thinking about it. I was thinking about football, Chiefs, and NFL, you know, because that's what I was, you know, I was a football player at the time or whatever. You know, but when you get 14 and you start thinking about, my height, I ain't like 6'2" or 6'3" or nothing like that. And so I'm probably going to have to think about something else, you know, because I'm always, I pride myself on having foresight, on just trying to see things before they happen, which can be good and bad.
Yeah.
But, my father sat me down, so this is probably spring of 2000. I knew I was going to leave Paseo because they wouldn't get no football team, and I really wanted to play football. Yeah. And by the way, freshman year I didn't miss no football. Freshman year I was young enough to play South Suburban, and because I didn't turn 14 until late August. Okay. You know, so but he sat me down. He was like, Brian, you about to be, you know, in 4 years you're gonna be 18, and you only got 3 years of high school left. What do you want to do? And it was my father is always has been and always will be my biggest influence on my life and how I carry myself. So I always looked up to him, and I wanted to like impress him or whatever, even if it's to lie to get to where I need to get to. I wanted to make sure that he's proud of me.
Yeah.
So I said, and my father had a lot of faults or whatever, and like that's a whole other situation in itself. But he was grilling me on this, and so I'm like, a lawyer. He's like, Brian, and this is the story I tell every kid that I go to in KCPS too, all the schools or whatever. I tell the same story. Brian, that you don't want to do that because you don't like to read. Come on, like my pops, he would just keep it real with me. Sometimes, again, to a fault to where he would like crush my dreams. Part of the reason why I try to be positive to people younger than me because of that. But anyway, and then I tried to come up with something else. I said, a stockbroker. He's like, Brian, sit down and think about it, bro. Like, I see you all the time listening to the radio every single day, and I see you watching the TV and turning down the game, and you're always broadcasting the Chiefs game or whatever NFL game is on. Why don't you pursue broadcasting? Like, this literally this conversation he had in spring of 2000. And from that point on, when I went to Northeast that next school year, I was head first into whatever broadcasting outreach within the high school that I could get to. And the person that really got me going was Mrs. Fisher. Okay. And me and my father too, before I get into that, we used to like have reading competitions at home. Like we would take just a random newspaper that would be sitting around and, who could read it the best without stumbling or whatever, who had the best diction or whatever. Yeah. So I read the announcements at church too. Okay. So not every Sunday, but when it was youth Sunday or whatever, I would at Mount Carmel, I would go and read the announcements. That was kind of like a big deal for a 12 or 13-year-old. Yeah. So, but anyway, so I pursued it, and thank God for Mrs. Fisher, who was my counselor at Northeast, who created a broadcasting club. Now, it was only like 3 or 4 of us in it, but we created a broadcasting club, which in tune turned into a curriculum. It turned into a class by the time I was a senior in high school, and we created like Northeast News, where it was like monthly. We would do like a news segment that you would air in the little TVs in the corner where Channel 1 would be played or whatever. And then, it became a curriculum by my senior year. And then I was at Northwest Missouri State. That's really the only school I really visited because they had a great broadcasting program. And you could get on immediately. So I was sold. And at the time, if I see something that I'm like semi-comfortable with or that I like or that's something that I know I can adapt to or whatever, I'm good. I'll figure the rest out, whatever. And X106, Northwest Missouri
That's
State.
where I started too.
That's
crazy.
X106. I had like 3 shows. And I was on the sports team too. So I covered the Bearcats. I covered the football team when we went to the national championships all those years and we lost. And but then immediately when I graduated, I started winning championships. But I covered the basketball team, men and women's basketball teams in a NCAA tournament. It was the right decision to go to Northwest for the broadcasting. So internship at 103 and 06, and that's a whole story in itself. Got hired in 07 while I was still in college.
And the rest is history. Man, that is crazy. So when I think about like starting, because even with my...
And there's so many stories to this.
That led to it. Yeah.
There's so many.
Literally, that's the same thing that I was saying too. Like when I started, before, when I went to Hogan, and I was like I always tell people, be honest. Like I was going down the wrong path. I didn't know what I was going to do.
You might know my cousin.
Who your cousin? But she went to Northwest too, didn't she?
Yep.
But that's crazy. But I used to like shout out. I always say like shout out to Miss North. Miss North was like she was our librarian, and then I tried my hand in basketball, but she would just always be on us like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And at the time I was like, can I go to college? I didn't really know. I didn't know what I could be. So like you said, I would make up stuff too. Like I'm gonna be a lawyer. I'm gonna be a teacher. I'm gonna be like, you don't want to be any of those things, you know. And so I started to think like, well, what am I good at? And the only thing that I ever felt like natural to me, which is awkward because I'm so socially like reserved, but I connect well with people, but I'm very laid back. I'm naturally introverted. And so I'm just like, well, this is the only thing that makes sense. And so I remember like the first time I even tried my hand, because I always tell people too, like, you remember them cassette tapes?
Absolutely.
I used to take, believe it or not, I used to take the like paper, put them in the bottom of a cassette tape and record the songs that I liked. And I made like my own radio show at home. That's literally where it started. And so when I started to think about, well, what are you good at? Well, what can you do? I was like, I don't know. I guess I'm just going to look at, I was like a motivational speaker or radio broadcast. And Northwest wasn't my first choice, but like you said, they allowed you to be hands-on. So I just was like, well, let me just see, you know, like, let me just see what happens. And I went and I had like, I think I was on 2 shows at Northwest. And then afterwards I was like, well, what do I do? And I just was like, I don't know. In radio, I just was like, well, God's favor really is how I got connected at High 103. And
this is what you do. This is what you good at.
But it's
like you natural at this.
And I don't, for the life of me, I don't understand it. And I think I've ran away from it for so long, but I'm just like, okay, at this point, I gotta take a leap of faith and just see where it takes me, you know? And we were talking about earlier how I was, like when I got the opportunity to move, to go to Houston, it didn't sit right with me. Like taking that leap, I'm like, that's so far away and there's no real guarantee in this. And I'm like, it didn't sit right. So I was like, man, I was mad at God. And I was just like, you took the only dream that I ever thought I could do and what I could have, you took it away. So I was like, what am I gonna do? And I just was like, I'm done with radio. I don't want to do it ever again. And I was pursuing my degree, which is in public relations, for years, and nothing has settled me well like this. And so now I'm at a space where I just have to surrender to it. And like I was telling you earlier, I was expecting a team. Now I am the team. I do everything, and it's frustrating sometimes. Like it's hard, but this kind of is fulfillment, you know. Mm-hmm. And like one of the things that I always I care about. This is Kansas City always gonna be my home, and like people like you and Julie and just people who are like making a positive impact. It's like, what is behind the scenes? So like you didn't think that like initially, I'm sure like everything that has happened, it didn't just like fall. Like you didn't just go like, yeah, everything feels good. I'm just one step next to the other. So I want to know, like, because perseverance takes like, you got to have some belief about yourself to keep persevering. But
I got a story.
Yeah, I want to know, like, after like your internship and like you got the job, but I know it didn't just be like, what? Like, what was that journey like for you?
All right, so this ties into my father, and it's it's the worst year of my life next to the year that I just had.
Okay.
Seriously. So I know I'm about to get, it's like May 2005. And I know I'm 19 and I know I'm about to get suspended from college because of my grades. I'm just being lazy and just slacking off and not going to biology or whatever. And, taking things for granted. So I sat down with my father when I moved back home. But I committed to my roommate, too, the next year, though. I had already signed the papers or whatever. I didn't feel like I could back out, even though I probably could have. I felt like at the time I just couldn't back out of it. But anyway, so now, it's like May 2005. I'm outside with my father. And we sitting down talking. And I just straight up told him the truth over a Kansas City sunny Sunday in the spring, over a hot barbecue grill. we sitting there and I'm telling him the truth. I'm just telling him what's going on. And he was like, all right, that's cool. We just going to find you a job. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And everything going to be cool. And at the end of the conversation, he said, man, I just respected that you told me this, that you told me this to my face. And I will never, ever, 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 ever forget that conversation. And from that point on, I was working at Home Depot on 135th and Overland Park. and this is the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. But it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm out there working for the summer until I have to go back to school at Northwest in August of 2005. And this is during my supposed to be my third year of college, by the way. I just like to give context.
Yeah, I do too. I do the same thing. You're good.
So I like to be detailed with it. So my mother needed her house painted.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Y'all see where this is going.
Yeah.
And, I was like, Mama, you know what I'm saying? Come to the line.
Mm-hmm.
Whoop-de-whoop, I got you. She did not want to do it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Totally against it. But me and my father, we convinced her to do it. By the way, my parents had never been married. Thank God. Mm-hmm. My daddy he was living with my mama at the time. So, again, context. Mm-hmm. So, she came through the line a couple times. Or no, not a couple times, one time. And boom, boom, boom. Mm-hmm. Swipe, no swipe. Mm-hmm. So there was a couple other things that happened too, not with my mother, but with a couple other folks. You slide through,
I got
line,
you. Yeah.
So it was the last day that I was supposed to work there, and I told them when my last day was too. So hey Brian, I'm walking into 100 again. It's Home Depot on 135th in Overland Park. Hey Brian, the general manager wants to see you in the back.
Oh my God.
I'm like, for what? She's like, who cares? It's your last day. Just go see. I said a couple, 4-letter words. So I go to the back and it's a GM with the lady from Loss and Prevention.
Oh God.
Yeah. The conversation started off real nice. Hey, Brian, how you doing? Hey, you going to college? Yeah, you going back to school? What are you majoring in? Blah, blah, blah. And the conversation slowly turned in to who is this and this day? And who is this? And it was a picture of my mother.
Oh, my God.
Devastated. I ain't never felt that bad in my life, ever. So I write my statement or whatever, and I said, y'all gonna arrest me for this blank? Mm-hmm. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you can say, blah, 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 blah. I get walked out of Home Depot in handcuffs. This is like 4 days after my 20th birthday. Mm-hmm. It's like August 21st, 22nd or something like that, 2005. It was a Tuesday because I got lucky it was a Tuesday because they had night court.
Oh.
So go to court, do all of that. I'm in the jail, I'm in the holding cell for like 6-7 hours. And, I get a hold of my pops. Another phone call I had to make. And, he had to come get me. So it's the first time I've ever been in or around like jail like that. Like me being booked in jail or whatever. Yeah. So he came and got me. Eventually I got diversion for that.
Okay.
Which is another form of probation or whatever for a year. All right, so the next week though, moving back up to Northwest with my roommate. All right, so I got maybe $500 to my name and maybe a check coming from Home Depot or whatever. And maybe I had a little more money in that because I think I paid like maybe 2 months rent. And then we had cable too. I had to watch the Chiefs.
Listen, and then when you say you pay too much rent with about $500, but people don't know. People don't know. Like Northwest, I remember the first apartment
my rent was
that
$250.
Listen, yeah, that's what I was about to say. The first apartment I had a 3-bedroom apartment for $500. I mean, we was in the trenches, but it was paid for.
I got it worth. Hold on. So this apartment was $500 for both of us, me and my roommate. So it's $250 a piece. Like when I really got into it though, when you get on the papers or whatever, I saw my boy give somebody $5 for rent and got change back. I forgot Hudson Square. Hudson Square, Urban Square. I don't know what it's called over there.
Man, life way different now. But
yeah, but and then I got on at the radio station, and I was making like $15 an hour or whatever part time
in Northwest.
And then my rent went up to $40, and I caused a fit.
Oh my god! if
only $40.
If only.
Right? Yeah, the nerve.
Yeah.
So all right. So moved back up to Northwest in my apartment because I can't get into school, and I wanted to be on the radio so bad because I was on the radio the year before, and that was just my first taste of being on.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I got to keep my shows, bro. Like, I was like, the people need me. Like, the ratings need me. Ain't no damn ratings in X106. Well, nobody listening to me like that. But anyway, that's just how I felt, though.
Yeah.
That's how I always felt about my brand.
You should. I feel the same way.
You know, so, but they wouldn't let me because I wasn't enrolled in school. Yeah. You know, but I was up there, but I would just hang around, you know. Like, I'm just like a kid.
Just there.
You know, I'm just watching everybody have fun like I'm in jail or something. But but back home though, like when I'm in the apartment, so I tried to apply for a job everywhere. Like that little felons list that y'all see floating around. Is it because
you was on papers?
That ain't man. They wasn't looking at me.
Yeah.
I'm talking about McDonald's, Subway, Walmart, Burger King, Applebee's. I applied to all these places.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. And I might as well have been in jail. Yeah. Because from late August until wintertime, until early December, I had no money. Zero. All of it was for the rent that I had paid for the first 2 months, a little food, and the other bills that I had. I had no income coming in. I'm just sitting in the apartment every day. I'm just sitting there, a bum.
That's how I feel.
Every day.
Yeah.
And when God gives you, when he sits you down, he gonna make sure you good. He gonna make sure you all right in the long run. But you gonna sit down and you gonna learn. And he knew I was short of money. It was a party that they had in Northwest. It was like one night in November or something, and I'm down bad. All right, I'm starving. I've got an eviction notice that I still have. I still carry that thing. And I negotiated for them to keep me going. And I think my mother helped me out too. Yeah. But manna from heaven, it came to me. Because at this party, this dude, I guess he was flashing money or something. And I go outside to leave the party to go home. I find like $200 worth of 20s on the ground.
Oh my God.
This is not a lie. This is real. And I spent that money on a couple bills that I needed to get paid. And I bought a bag of fish sticks, 100 fish sticks, and some bread. And that's all I ate from mid-November to early December until the winter break happened. So that's like a good month or whatever of just eating fish sticks every single day. I only ate one time at night. And I made it like a big fat, like 10 fish stick sandwich, or maybe, I don't know, it might not. I don't know, do the math or whatever. You know, but that I had to do what I had to do, bro. And I just remember breaking down from my mother, but she's such a zombie. Like she crying for her. You know. But I, you know, and through all of that, I got back into school though. All right. It gets a little better, but the bad part ain't came yet. I got back into school, and Fred Lamer, changed my life. He said, "Stop
messing around,
and come with me and make me your advisor, and I promise you'll graduate." So got back into school. Grades was good. Caught up on bills with that, you know, financial aid money or whatever. Because I still couldn't get no job. But thanks to the overs for that money, I was able to take care of all of that or whatever.
We gotta pause because you talk about manna from heaven.
Go ahead,
man. Like, I feel like that is the season that I've been in, and it's frustrating. Like I'm living it. It's like I got everything that I need, but then when you worry about the future, when you worry about like God, like how I'm gonna do this, and kind of what you said, like when God sits you down, you gonna feel it. Whatever lesson he's trying to get you to learn, whatever he needs you to see, eternal work, like whatever it is, you gonna feel it. And there's nothing that you can do. Not when you live a life surrendered, you know what I'm saying? Nope. Like there is nothing that you can do to get out of it. And sometimes it feels like did I do, like, what is it? How long? Like, cause sometimes I find myself being like that. Like, God, I'm doing everything that I can. Like, where, and sometimes like I have to like pause, cause it's not even that like you did necessarily anything wrong, but sometimes God is like, hey, sit in front of this mirror. Now it's time to do some work. Cause like where I'm taking you, that can't be there. And like, you gotta know, and this is what God is teaching me. Like, you gonna have to know it's all me and not you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna order your steps, but before I do that, we gonna do some hard work first. You know what I'm saying? And just like God to be like, you got a baller in the party, flashing money, and he done blessed you. That's just how God works.
He did, bro. And at the time, I didn't know. I just thought, oh, I'm lucky. I got $200.
Yeah.
But it's like looking back
now, you
like,
see.
Oh my God.
Sometimes you don't, like, when you're going through it, you don't really see God's hand in it.
Nope.
Because when you're going through it, you feel like, God, like, you left me hanging.
Right.
You left me. I'm suffering. All this, that, and the third.
Right.
Whole time, God been there.
Right.
It's like you don't see it in the moment, but then like when you get older, you keep living, get a little wisdom. It's like, oh, thank you. Because I'm sure that whatever you had to go through in that time, like, I mean, because all of us, we all gonna go through something hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It's just a part of character. It's a part of life. But when you are able to kind of look back, it's like, oh, okay, what did I learn? How did I become different in that? You know, like, and what did you get from that you feel like you needed to get to where you are right now?
I needed to know that I can't take anything for granted, and that I needed to get real fast. Mm-hmm. Looking back now, and I'm just now thinking of this is a fresh answer because nobody's ever asked me that. But now I'm thinking about it. It's like, yeah, dog, you need to get real, because think about why I'm in that position in the first place. Because I'm taking things for granted. I'm not going to class. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not doing my work. I'm not doing my homework. I'm not turning nothing in. And I really wasn't. I was just
kicking it.
Nah, I wasn't kicking it. Ain't no.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. But before that, like when you were in school, when
I know I never been a party over here person ever.
Okay.
I mean, like I'll, maybe once a year or something, or even back when I was a kid, and it's a reason to that or whatever, and that could be a whole other podcast. Or whatever. It really could. But I was always to myself, and I wasn't really outgoing, like that ever. So I wasn't. So Northwest it was easy for me to adapt to Northwest. I just kept to myself. I ain't going to white parties. Yeah. I mean, love to them and what they do or whatever. Nothing against it. It ain't me. That ain't my culture at all. And then the black party. What? Yeah.
I did like a semester.
We tried.
Yeah, and then it got old real fast for me.
But at Northwest, you had one or two black parties throughout the year that'd be like, okay, like this
is the one we're gonna go to.
But besides that, you can forget about it. Yeah. You go. Because people always going to other schools or whatever. It's not that many black people up there, and it's it is what it is. Yeah. So, but yeah, I needed to know that things were finna get real fast, like real fast, and I had to learn on the dime, and I had to learn quick, because what I'm about to share with you is finna take it to another level. Okay. The year before. And we're in like April 2006. It's the end of the spring semester at Northwest. The year before, in 2005, when I got suspended, I only called Hot 103 Jamz one time and emailed one time looking for an internship because I knew I could boost my GPA up with that. But whatever. Even if it's only one credit hour, an A is an A. Yeah. So. But so I got no response though in the summer of 2005, spring 2005, summer 2006. After I had went through all of that, then I wasn't taking no for an answer. Yeah. So I called and emailed 5, 6, 7 times, and I hate being annoying and bothering people. I don't like that. But I had to put that to the side and just focus on what the goal at hand and just show that I needed it and I wanted it. And so my man Theo,
shout out to Theo,
man, that dude, man,
Same.
Love you, dude.
Yeah,
he
same.
know what's up.
Yeah.
Theo is the person who interviewed me and got me into the internship program this year at Howard on 3 Jamz, starting in May of 2006. So now, I come back home, I move back home, and I'm doing the internship. And during the first week, my father and me and my father and my brothers, I got 2 brothers and 1 sister. But me, my father, and my brothers, every single Friday and Saturday night, we'd be up playing the game, talking stuff to each other, eating, Gates or good food or whatever, LCs, whatever it is we eating or whatever, and playing Madden. And this is just what we do. This is our happy time, our main
quality time together,
you know. And this particular night, though, my little brother wasn't at my mother's house. And my little brother, just context, he's the one that he has a different mother. That's my second mother. His mother is my second mother. That I call her my second mother. She's my stepmother. But she's my second mother. That's what I love her as. So he wasn't at the house this particular week though. And this is May 26, 2006. It's a Friday night, and it's near midnight. And my girlfriend at the time was calling me to talk on the phone. So I try to go upstairs and talk to her on the phone. And my father looks at me and says, "Oh, so you going to go upstairs because Jared ain't here." Jared's my little brother. I kind of looked at him and was like, and I went upstairs. And I was listening to Underground Heat at the time. I'm talking to my girlfriend at the time. So I hear a shout. I hear my name being shouted like 30 minutes later or whatever. Brian! Like, I ain't paying no attention to them dudes. They just down there playing the game or whatever. 10 seconds later, louder, Brian! Come downstairs, see my father pass out. And so I try to give him CPR, because that's the only thing I know to do, try to revive him somehow or whatever. And my pop's like 6'3", like 4+, like he's a humongous dude. So, but had to call the ambulance, had to call them, and he died that night. That Saturday morning, Friday night, May 27th, 2006, and it was the biggest. You ever got hit in the jaw? No. I know that's a hard question. Like, I'm sorry.
Maybe. Probably fight my sister or something. Probably.
It was like, if you ever been in a fight and you got stolen on in the jaw.
Unexpected. I got hit unexpected. Yeah.
It was the biggest hit I've ever had. Yeah. Ever. My father passing away. Like I kind of expected it to happen because of his lifestyle and just things that I know and how he lives. But it was, here we are. Yeah, it was the biggest shockwave, man. To know that the person he's who I looked up to. He was the rock of the little family that I had with my brothers and my sister. And he was just such an overbearing influence on us that to see him gone, it's like, what do we do? Yeah. And I've always been independent and self-sufficient, and I knew I was gonna be okay, and everything was gonna be fine. It's like, damn, like
now what?
So that's 1 week into my internship. 1 week. So looking back, it's hard to look back sometimes when it's fresh. But now it's like, man, I got that internship, and he saw that just so he could see that, all right, he'll be taken care of. Yeah. And that the last real conversation is the one I had with him the previous summer when I told him about my grades. So at that time, I felt like I passed, like I had a badge of honor on me, like I passed a test or something. And now to see a year later, he's gone. Man. It's like.
So how do you like navigate grief, but also like pouring yourself into this opportunity that you got? Because you said you weren't taking no for an answer. So you got the internship, and like essentially
push it to the side.
It's what changed your life.
Push it to the side.
Yeah. I feel like, to be honest, I think that nowadays we, as a culture, people, like, we look at resources and things like that now. Before, we didn't really understand, like, talking about grief, talking about therapy and healing. Like, you just kind of deal with it and keep going. Literally, you just deal with it and keep going.
What is that? What?
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it was just based on how I grew up and how I had to be self-sufficient because my mother was a zombie.
Yeah.
And it was an easier transition for me than it was for somebody else. Like, it was hard for my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was, you said life goes on when we came in here, referring to something else.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. So I had a goal. I felt like I had a goal to accomplish. And I needed to do, my dad didn't graduate college. He went, but he never finished. Mm-hmm. And my grandmother was still alive. And the hardest phone call I had to make was to my little brother to tell him what was going on that night too. He came over and we all went to the hospital. I already knew what was up.
Yeah.
But, and then we had to go to my grandmother's house and wake her up. Mm. And, but just, it was really my grandmother's strength. And looking back, the biggest influence, is my father, but my grandmother too. Yeah. She's probably 1B. He's 1A, she's probably 1B. And definitely how I am now as an adult is 1,000% my grandmother, who is my saving grace and my Holy Spirit. She is Eula Mae Brooks. Yeah. So you just gotta push it to the side, man. But it don't leave. Yeah. It don't leave. And it was many, many, many nights, Bree. Still many nights where you just crying.
Man, I feel you. Like, I went through in college, my aunt passed away. My third semester? It was a sophomore. And for me, I was like, I'm the only one that's like, I done made it to college. Like, I felt like because she saw me in that light after I was headed down the bad direction. And I was like, okay, now I'm gonna go to school. But then when she passed, it was like, I gotta finish what I started, and that, at first I was going to drop out of school and join the Navy. And God was like, girl, I can't even swim. So, but after that, it was just like, okay, I got to finish this, because I felt like.
I had to finish with 3 people. Mm-hmm. I mean for everybody in my family, but specifically my daddy, because he didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to finish the job that he didn't finish. Not that he couldn't, that he didn't finish. For my second mother, because of all that she invested in me and treating me like her son. Mm-hmm. For my mother, because of the opposition that she faced in her family. Mm-hmm. And golly, and this year, I just had a whole transformation with that particular situation with my mother's family. Because this year is really the first time in my life that I've ever spent time with them.
Really?
Yes. So that's a whole other dynamic that. So
whatever was on this year. Last year is gonna be
right. Yeah. So and then from my grandmother, because she never saw my father do it. So it was those faces in my head every single day when I was in college after 2006. I'm like, it's getting done.
Yeah. Let me ask you, when did you realize your impact on others? When did you realize, you don't? No. Still to this day?
I feel like I'm just Brian doing my job. That's how I approach it. I want to be the best at it. Mm-hmm. I'm a competitor, and I go to work with my hard hat on. Now I got my creative hat on too, but the mentality I have is we going to work.
Well, let me pause and give you your flowers right now, Brian, because sometimes we get so caught up in just doing, and like we talked about earlier about just being a zombie, that you don't kind of pause and like look up, like look at everything that I've done, look at everything that I've overcome. So I want to give you your flowers because I've watched you, I see the things that you do, like, and sometimes we don't see ourselves like most people see us, but I want to tell you, like, you have impact here in Kansas City, like not just because people know you with your radio show or they see you with the Chiefs or whatever, like people watch you and you have no idea. So don't for no moment think that like you don't matter, like what you're doing is not worth anything. I promise you it is. I promise you it is. If it wasn't for you taking me under your wing and being like a big brother to me, like I was lost when I was trying to figure out like radio, because it's like I wasn't on air at Hot 103. I did have a show outside, like at 101, whatever. I forgot the station right now, but 90.1. I had a show. Yeah. I had a show there, but it was because I learned from you. You taught me how to edit. You taught me all of these things. And that's why like having you a part of what I'm doing is important to me. Like before anything ascends or however it goes, like I think about those people who have been gems in my life, and you are one of them.
That means a lot.
And I know that it's not just me. Like people watching you probably have no idea, because like you are more than a radio personality. You're a DJ. Like you do so much. So like
I appreciate
I want to encourage you to pause, like even though we talking, we going down memory lane and just thinking about how you got to this point, but I want you to like take time to pause and look at everything that you've done, look at everything that you've been able to overcome. It don't matter if your lane look different from your brothers or whoever else, like you have an impact exactly where you are. So like don't take that for granted. Like
I appreciate it. It means a lot. It does, because like Deanna does that too. My partner.
Yeah,
I love that girl so much because she be on.
Shout out to Deanna Hustle, because I be watching y'all. Yeah,
I love her to death, dog.
Yeah.
And what y'all see with me and her is 100% real. And authentic, just like it was and still is with Shay.
Yeah,
so love both of my sisters.
Shout out to y'all.
So, but Deanna like offers a lot of that for me, and because I try to. Again, the positive thing and trying to encourage, it's odd because the people like who I've like quote unquote influenced, like they're all black women.
Yeah.
And that is so special to me because for the most part I was brought up by black women, my grandmother and my second mother. My love to my mother, but it was certain things that they provided to me that she can't. So, but DJ Duke, she's one who, in 2014, around the same time that you were there, she was like, "I want to DJ." It was like, I hear that a lot from a lot of people, but it's like the thing that I say is, "All right, you go get some equipment. I got you. I'm gonna teach you." 2 weeks later, Dupe had her controller. Said, okay, bet. Look, let's go. Let's rock and roll. Look at her. She DJ for KC Current now. She's DJ on tour with Chris Calico. She's core DJ now.
Man, and so like even in like think about those things. Like you just never know, a little gem, a little nugget that you would teach somebody or help somebody. You don't know how far it goes. I'm telling you.
I just try to pay it forward, man.
Yeah.
I like that. Myron taught me that. That's one of the first things he ever taught me. Myron did at Carter Broadcast Group. That dude, he means a lot to me too. But he taught me to pay it forward. And that's really God speaking, because really when you give is to give. Yeah. I don't expect nothing back. And when you do that, it comes back around without you even knowing it. Yeah. Now, it take a long time for people to understand that. And some people would never have that mentality to understand it. But, man, goodness and gracious, it go a long way.
Man, and it's not about monetary either. Sometimes people think like, oh, I give. Or it make you feel good because you give, but like, what's your heart posture? You know, like
heart posture. I like that.
Literally, what's your heart posture? Or why you doing a thing? Because like you think that it make you a good person because you donated or whatever. It's like I did my good person check, but like what I think about like how you treat people when they could do nothing for you.
Mm-hmm.
I have encountered people who've been a part of my journey that it's just like, you're not a good person. You portray one thing, but like your heart is wicked.
Yep.
Okay. Like you do things for clout.
And they will never win.
Nope.
They might win. And they might win short term. All right, you get this, you get that, you get this, you get that.
Get a little bit of shine.
It's going to crumble down. Yep. It might take 2 years, 10 years. Prime example. Mm-hmm. Puffy. Okay, mm-hmm. When you got access, or you got power, you got this, that, and the third. But if your heart is wicked, like you just said, and your heart posture is messed up, mm-hmm. no matter how much power you think you have,
it's gonna come back to you.
It's going to crumble, and the bigger it is, the harder worse it's going to be.
Yep, literally, and that's why I think about this. Like I treat everybody with respect, from the janitor to the CEO. Like you're a person. And and you never know where a person is on their journey. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know what their ambitions are, if they need to be encouraged. And so that's why I'm kind and I'm mindful to people that I interact. And it's like, pause, let me give you your flowers just in case you needed to be reminded. Like, you just never know how far that'll go for a person. You know what I'm saying? And so I really, it matters to me. And because of like I said, we don't see ourselves how other people do, but I know that somebody could be watching this right now and be like, wow, I never thought about that. Like, just us having this conversation will drop a nugget in somebody else. It's like, oh, you don't know where to go. You know what I'm saying? So just keep doing what you do, just being kind to people, and then also like learn boundaries too. Because sometimes I used to think like, oh, I just gotta give. It's like, yeah, I'm a good person, but like I learned that I can't pour from an empty cup, and that's something that I'm learning in this season. Like, as much as like as gracious as I am and as kind as I am, if I'm doing for you, like I can't be no good for nobody else if I ain't good for myself. And so like being away, really, I thought that I could like escape my pain and go and start over. It's just like, nah, it followed me. Mm-hmm. And so it's until, like you said earlier, like I will sit you down. Mm-hmm. And so it don't matter what you did or what you were supposed to do. It's like, hey, we need to get this together first, because when it comes, just like that. But like, are you doing the work while you have the time? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
a lot of people don't be understanding what that mean either. When God sits you down, it's like, okay, if your heart is following Him and is pure, and He's telling you things, like showing you things like, hey, you need to attend to this and not this, but you still trying to attend to this. And again, like we just said, you might be successful for a few weeks, a month, or whatever, but this over here that needs your attention, it's going to catch up with you. And the longer that you delay, the worse it's going to be for you.
Yeah. All right. So you talk about faith a lot. Did you grow up in faith? Like, how has your relationship with God been? Like, I know it's changed over the years. It's probably it sounds like you got a little oil on you, Brian. I can hear it. But did you grow up in that?
I got hella skin so soft on me.
Listen,
look. So first church home was St. Stephen's Baptist Church, 1414 Truman Road. Okay. Reverend Mac Charles Jones.
Shout out to them.
And that's where my foundation was set. Okay. To where, as a child, that's where I went from when I was born to till I was like 10 or 11. So we talking 85 to 95. And so it was really the base of religion for me, growing up in it. I got baptized there when I was 9 years old. I remember taking communion there, for the first time. I remember saying Easter speeches there in front of, and this back then when people went to church and big congregations, and St. Stephen's was big. So I remember saying my Easter speech in front of all them people and hearing my voice for the first time and hating it.
Yeah, most people do hate their voice, and you don't think so.
Does.
Yeah,
everybody does. I got a story about that too in college, where I hated my voice, where I just wanted to just stop. But anyway, that's where I learned the Black National Anthem that I know still to this day, still because of that church. And then from there went to Mount Carmel, and that was when I was going to church with my grandmother. She would come pick me and my brother up, my older brother up from my mother's house, take us to grandma's house, and we go to church with her, come home, and that's where I got my good food experience. And I feel bad for mixed kids. This is a serious subject, but it's funny too. Because if your white mama can't cook, but your black grandma can, like it provides some serious like trauma there. I'm serious, but that's a whole pie in itself. Anyway, because my mama can't cook at all, but my grandma, the total opposite, bro.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the second church home that I had was Mount Carmel Baptist Church, KCK, right off of like state line, or right off of Rainbow. Went there from probably like 96, and that's where I told you I read the announcements at.
Oh yeah.
And this is a smaller church, so I went there from like 96 to about 03, and those were really the two church homes I had growing up. Now as an adult, Trinity Temple.
Okay.
So shout out to Bishop Stevens. Love you, dog. But that was the only thing that saved me, bro. Was me knowing God and just following my spirit.
Man.
Other than that, I didn't know nothing else.
Man, listen. Faith get real when faith is all you got. You know what I'm saying? Like when I moved to Dallas, I was like in a space after I turned down the opportunity in Houston and I moved to Dallas, I moved on faith. I didn't have no money. I had $700 in a car that I didn't know how I was going to pay for. I just was like, I got to get out of here. I don't know what to do. And I literally left. And God really took me on a journey because like I grew up, I would go to church, but it was more religion and not relationship. So I didn't understand. And so I was telling somebody like now that I'm older, like faith.
You said it was religion, not relationship.
Yeah, because like we look at God like this big sky daddy, these rules that we got to follow. And it's just like, I'm not perfect. And so I kind of felt like, well, I'm already messed up. So I'm just going to be out here. I just was like casting myself out. And it wasn't, to be honest, like my real relationship started in 2016 where like I had a reverence for God, but like the relationship grew. I wanted to like read his word so I can understand what does this mean? I had to learn what it meant to die to myself, to die to my dreams. And it's like we talked about earlier, how I was mad at God because you didn't like the opportunity that I thought I had for radio didn't work out. So I'm like, well, now what do I do? And it's like he gave me back what I did because this is what I know I'm made to do, even though it's not traditional and I don't know where it's leading me, but it's just like, I trust God.
Tradition?
Man.
In this day and age?
Listen, I had a question for you too about like, outside of faith, it's just like now like you have like you are the radio person, you do the things, but radio ain't the same no more. And you got podcasts, you got different things. So how is it different for you now? Like how's radio different for you now than when you started?
It's you gotta adapt. You gotta adapt to what people like now. And from when I was first doing it, is people's tastes have changed in terms of I think they want more rawness. Like, and it was to me like it's just the progression of society. Like, because we've been talking about people want more raw and all that stuff for years, but now it's like with socials and seeing how people truly are. And then I tell you this, after the pandemic, that's when it really switched up.
Yeah,
because now. Not to make fun of people audio or nothing, but like if you got some janky audio on a Zoom or something, people are understanding of that. They're like, they on Zoom. Yeah. Like that's how the audio sound. Because we all talk on FaceTime or Zoom or whatever. Yeah. So we understand that now we can do interviews with Zoom instead of them coming in person or whatever. Things you gotta be shorter. You gotta be even shorter than when you had to be back then. Yeah.
Because our attention span is just like
it is what it is. That's the business model of radio. That's why you hear the same songs over and over, because we're trying to get as many people to listen as possible at the same time. So you got to try to get your net has to be big. If you have the smaller your net is, it's probably like a new song that a lot of people don't know about. Yeah. But if you have a massive hit that a lot of people know, then that's more people you get to listen. But like people ain't gonna understand that. They're gonna think what they want to think or whatever. But it's a whole science to it or whatever. But that's how it's changed. And then the fact that you look at politics. People are just brazen. They go out of their way to be rude and sometimes it's just people just being themselves. Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and all. You just get to see people how they are. And so like, if you look at radio personalities like 30 years ago, whatever, like they're all
not relatable, kind of, yeah.
Bro, can you imagine somebody doing that today instead of like, being who we really are or whatever.
Yeah. I think that is the blessing, and COVID it made us pause. I think COVID made us like look at ourselves. It's like, okay, now I want something that I can feel, something real. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm drawn to too. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm more likely to listen to, I want to hear, who are you as a person? You know what I'm saying? That's why this is so like,
and I can't expose that. It ain't even enough time for me on my own show to even people get a taste of this, that, and I can't even. I'm just a person. I like to break it all the way down so that you have a complete
I'm the same
understanding of where I'm coming from. So there ain't no misconceptions or whatever. Yeah, because it's a reason and wrong for everything. But I don't even have enough time on my own show to do that. So these things are important, and you gotta. Going back to your original question, you got to insert this stuff. Yeah. That's why when you listen to my show, I've been doing the morning show almost 10 years now. And I feel like the thing that I was innovative with was putting hella drops. People that do drops in their shows or whatever, they'll have little funny little drops and bits or whatever. But when we're talking, I like to do that live. I like to hit them drops live. So, and like 90% of them.
What's a drop?
Like, I
know, but...
a drop is like Niecy Nash, where she's like, "Girl, what's going on?"
Oh yeah.
Like memes. So we can say memes.
Okay.
We can say popular memes or whatever. You know, putting
like an audio meme, basically.
Yeah, putting those things into my show. Putting the Netflix sound when we talking about Netflix, having that in there. It's about theater of the mind, going the extra mile for me, because I know
theater of the mind. I like that.
Yeah, that's what radio's all about. Yeah, man. You got to create. That's the only thing that I love. Like that's my saving grace about the industry, is that I get to be creative. Yeah.
Tell me, what is one of the moments that you've had in your career that has like wowed you? Because I asked you earlier about your impact to others. Like you might not see it, but like, has there been a moment where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to do this, or I met this person?
You know, I was talking about being starstruck it was like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and I ain't never really been starstruck by nobody for real. It was one time when I was 13, but since I've been doing, and it was The Rock, by the way. Okay. I saw him at Hypermart. God, like it was, I was like,
I'd probably be starstruck.
Yeah. So, but pause, by the way. Oh. I was 13, man. It was The Rock. Yeah. So, but anyway, but my 50 Cent interview that I had when Tech Nine just randomly came. Like 50 Cent was in the studio, and I'm interviewing him because he's announcing that he's going independent. And the king of independent comes through because he heard it. And so Tech came in and they met. Like,
because of your show.
Well, yeah. Nah, I ain't gonna say
because you being
you know what I'm saying?
I heard that in a long time.
I don't want to be boozy. I ain't gonna say all that, but I will say that
it was in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. Okay. It wasn't even it was play show.
Okay.
I was filling in for him.
Shout out to Playmaker. Yeah.
And I remember one thing. I want to hit on something. Now, that's probably like my most memorable moment, but it's like you said something earlier. You asked me like, what point did you had to keep trying and perseverance, and that was just the one that I told you. Like people don't know, I've been denied at that station like 3 or 4 times for positions, including the morning show like 2 or 3 times, which is a whole story in itself. I don't know if you got another 2 hours on here for that, but it's
man. Yeah. Even going into like persevering, because that's how I feel like that with jobs, with opportunities, people. It's just like
that's one of my favorite words. Yeah, man. Persevere. Yeah, get through it, man.
And I think about this a lot because I was saying earlier how like this. I know we look in one way, but sometimes like I don't want to do this no more. I'm tired. I want to quit. Have you had a moment like that? Like seasons where it's like I know it looks great, but like I don't want to do this no more.
100%. Yeah, they come in spurts, they come in seasons, but like they there though. Absolutely, 100%. I told you about a time where I just hated my voice. I could not stand it. I used to listen because I like to critique and make sure I'm good, and I like to fix things.
That
on my
perfectionist, yeah.
And so when I was in college, and I was 19. It was just my first year just doing radio, so I'm not used to hearing myself like that. But I'm listening. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. This is awful. I don't want to hear this no more. And I was just stop it. I wouldn't listen no more.
When you stopped, did you feel like you was missing something? Like, how did you feel?
I feel like I wasn't good enough. It ain't happening. I don't sound like and this is 2004, 2005. So I'm thinking like I need to sound radio guy or whatever. And I couldn't get with it, man.
So when did you get to the point where you felt like I'm enough, or have you got to that point where you feel like I'm enough?
Oh yeah, and like I feel like with the radio thing, it's like
you bodied it.
I can do it in my sleep.
Yeah, I know it took time to get there.
Oh yeah,
but like
we talking about it will be 21 years in 2005 now.
And I want to press on that because sometimes we compare.
I mean, 2025. I meant it'll be 21 years.
Yeah. But like we compare somebody like ourselves to somebody who's been doing it for 20 years. So like in the Bible when it talks about don't despise small beginnings, because like even now with me like being
where that verse at?
I'm gonna find it and give it to you.
Don't despise small.
Yeah, don't despise small beginnings. I'm gonna find it for you right now. No, you're good. Listen, remember when I told you like the older that I get, Scripture comes alive. Yeah. Everything that we need is really our source.
Yeah, I'll look it up because I know we ain't got that much time.
No, you're good. I can.
That's something I need because I do that. If it ain't big. Pause. I want to go home.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Like it's just the secular side of me. I just like if it's not a big deal, I don't want to be involved in it.
It's Zechariah 4:10.
Okay,
I'm gonna text it to you.
Please do.
But it's like when I tell you I had to go to like the source when everything that I was doing I couldn't lean on my own. I can't lean on my own strength because it's hard. Because you will want to give up if you dependent on your own strength. Oh, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't got community, if you don't have partnership, and even like having a relationship with God, like there's no way I could do this without it. There's no way. And
he's the only one, man.
He's the source. He is the source. And he gave us a resource in the word. And so that's why, like, I tell people too, like being an entrepreneur, it is a complete faith walk. Yeah. It's a complete faith walk because it takes something. It takes a lot of perseverance for somebody to have an idea in their mind. And now it's coming to live. Like when I look at this and I'm just like, this was in my mind.
Right.
And so it's like sometimes like, well, it ain't big enough, or I'm not getting the reward that I want. So it's like, I don't want to do this no more. But when you think about all the successful people like 50 Cent, I admire him. He a little crazy, right. But I admire him. I admire, his books. Yeah, like I got his book too, but like I admire his hustle. I admire his independence. I'm doing myself. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so you said something quickly, and I have to say this because I'll be so focused on, I gotta get this done. I gotta do this. 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 And my wife, thank God for her.
Shout out to wifey.
She's the one, because I ain't mentioned her this whole time.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about it. Yeah, I was gonna ask you about it.
So I would be remiss if I didn't say nothing about her and what she's provided for me the past several years. Which has been a lot, but the word, you tell me that you need to focus on the word, and
she knows something.
She reminds me of that, and that's why she Maria.
Yeah, and listen, let me tell you about like understanding like scripture and all that. It ain't like you just gonna drop in and just know everything. Nope. You eat off of it. When I need to be encouraged, what do the Bible say about encouragement? Google it. That's how I started. And I heard somebody say the other day, a pastor said this the other day, get on ChatGPT. You got a question, chat, it will break it down for you. And then go back to a physical Bible and look it up. But literally, that's your daily bread. We talked about manna from heaven, but the manna sometimes might not come in a monetary gain. It might come in a word from him. Yeah.
A word, a situation, an opportunity, a lack of opportunity, an opportunity taken away that you didn't need to be involved in no way. We gotta look at these things, and I'm really talking to myself.
Yeah.
We got to look at these things for more than just what you think they are.
Yeah.
It's more to it than that.
And it is a process. It's a process. So shout out to you just for your process. You mentioned wifey. I want to talk about that because for somebody like me, like I'm over 30 now, and we look at other people like, oh, you got married, you done did this, you done did that. But like your wife came to you at the right time. How did that even happen? If you don't mind us knowing quickly about your love story.
100%, yeah. So, I told you about how my father's connected to that station with me and my heart. Well, that's where I met my wife at.
Okay.
Right in that studio.
Wow.
And
Oh, you love her. Look at your face.
It was because it's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you asked us, like, what moment? What? And it was when I first saw her. It literally was. I was like, because she, like, fit everything. I just always saw my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I was a kid. I just saw what she looked like. I couldn't draw it. I couldn't explain it. But if I saw her, I saw her.
Yeah.
And I saw her.
You had to.
I didn't know it at the time. Like,
yeah.
But I did.
It was like, something that piqued your curiosity.
For sure. And like we just got close from that point on. Now COVID broke us apart because she had to move back home. But we weren't together at the time when COVID hit first started. We were together before then.
Okay.
But when COVID hit, she moved back to Cincinnati, and by the end of 2020, we were rekindled. We was. I need her. Like I want to be. I want to make sure she's good with me sharing everything.
Yeah, you don't have to share everything, but just.
But on December 26, 2020, and that number 26 is special to us because a lot of things happened. Like we got married on June 26. Partly because of that reason. I believe in numbers too.
Yeah,
I believe that numbers tell me
they signify things. They do.
They mean something to me. They're a way of me figuring things out. Sometimes I don't use it for everything.
Yeah.
But when I need my spirituality to speak to me, numbers a lot of times speak to me in a certain way because the number 8 is special to me. My father's born on the 8th. My older brother, October 8th. I'm August, the 8th month, 18th. My little brother is February 28th. My little sister's February 28th.
8 is my favorite number too. 8 means new beginnings. I don't know if you knew that or not. I didn't know but that's that. What it represents.
But 8 also looks like a bee.
So, see?
Brian Brooks. Bree. See? But anyway.
I love it.
Right. But, so, like, we rekindled on that December 26, 2020. And I got engaged to her on Juneteenth, 2021. Married June 26, 2022.
I love that for you.
And now hold on. Like, it ain't,
It's work. Marriage is...
Boy.
I know that marriage is work.
We're from... She's a princess.
Mm-hmm. How do you...
From the gutter.
How do you think that, like, marriage has changed you, though?
It changed everything, bro. Changed everything. It changed the way how I look at a lot of things. Is giving me an extreme amount of patience, one, and an extreme amount of understanding. And I thought I was understanding before, but now it's like I feel like I'm super duper understanding because of how different people see different things, and it's so many different little butterfly effects that happen in your life to make you think things are one way when it could be another way, and people's perception of things, the biggest thing. I'm sorry, I keep doing that.
You good?
The biggest thing that marriage has taught me is being a better leader.
I love that.
100%.
So you got
being a better leader,
and you got your helpmate. And do you think that at a point because you said earlier that you was pushing 40, so I mean you've been married like in recent years. Did you get discouraged in your weight at all? Like, did you ever think, like, you always, I feel like because of, like, what I know about
body weight or patience weight?
Patience weight. Like
finding a woman?
Yeah, like finding a wife. Because being
it wasn't on my radar.
But let me ask you this, though, because perception, people can look at you like, oh, this is Brian. He do this. It's like, I know people was probably, like, in his DMs or whatever. But, like, but do you think that, like, did you get discouraged in your weight of waiting for like something like that you desire? I know you want to be, wanted to be a husband, but
I didn't necessarily get discouraged because I always felt like I was going to be. I knew I was going to be married. I not feel like I knew. Like that was just a goal. I never dreamt of having multiple like women in one night or whatever, like all these little freaky stuff that people be doing or whatever. That wasn't really my steez. I always wanted a wife. That was always what I dreamt of. And Will Smith said that in his book. And I always thought that was weird that I always dreamt that. But like he said it, so it kind of made me comfortable. Be like, yeah, I felt the same way. I didn't.
Man, to be honest, the older that I get, I think that a family is the greatest wealth.
You damn right
it is. I'm sorry for the
4-letter word, but I'm passionate about that.
It is the greatest, and I think that it's protection and why God designed things the way that He did, and how she's blessed you, and like He gave her to you. I feel like maybe like at the right time, it had to be. You know, God's
the only time, Bree. I couldn't have done this no other time in my life. No other time. None. All this. He know what he doing.
Yeah.
Just based on what I went through the past 4 or 5 years, it's even more. I knew what he was doing before, but it's like even more confirmation. Yeah. Like, oh God, you slick. Yeah. You know what you're doing. Yeah. And it's like you gotta submit and just follow. Yeah. And that be the biggest problem with going back to marriages. Like people forgetting who you submitting to. I'm not submitting. I'm submitting myself to my wife. It ain't because of her. It's because partly it is.
But it's because of him.
It's because it's what I'm supposed to do because God told me to do that.
It's the way He made us, man.
And we forget that. Yep. Because you think you're losing something when you submit yourself to somebody, or when when you give yourself to somebody, you think you're surrendering to them. But no, bro. You're surrendering to Him.
That's good.
And
I wish more men thought like that, but that's why
ego, man.
Literally, but I'm glad you're saying that, because as a man, as a successful man, like you have a woman that is with you. I feel like that is your greatest wealth, your greatest asset.
Well, it took me a second to learn that lesson too. Yeah. Because I was caught up in that. I'm like, what? I'm not finna do what she say. Yeah. Not that we're telling each other what to do, but there are certain things that she that she can guide me on that I don't be knowing about. Listen. And you just got to submit yourself to God to listen to her, because God is speaking to her, speaking to you through her. And if we just let go of some of that ego and just be like, all right, I'm gonna take that. And I still be having trouble with this sometimes.
We all do.
All right, but I am learning this lesson though, like. But men, a lot of times we ain't trying to hear that. You know, like you don't want to deal with all of that. And I understand and I get it. Because when you mix a woman and a man from two different planets, it could be catastrophic. And that's what we see a lot of times. Yeah. Especially when people don't be prepared for the actual work that you need, with understanding, with patience, to give that person time to work on what they need to work on, to deal with what they need to deal with, just so they can make themselves better. A lot of times we don't be having patience with ourselves sometimes, let alone somebody else. So
that was gems. Thank you, B, for sharing that. I got another couple questions for you before we go. Like, what has been something that you are most proud of, either in your career or in your personal life? Just one of your most proud things that you've accomplished thus far.
Well, it kind of like go hand in hand with each other, but it's like I love my work in my community that I've been able to do as a part of the station. Like, of course, I do a lot of things on my own too, especially with Operation Breakthrough, with Block Brothers Liberating Our Community, among the hundreds of organizations that I don't personally work with. But a lot of that is through that station too. So it ain't Brian, it's the station. Yeah.
Shout out to Carter Broadcast Group. Like,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, shout out to you.
We're real about that. Yeah. And the people who work there are real about that. And like, you got to come from a certain fabric to be about that. Yeah. And so I feel like I've stayed true to represent Kansas City, because, okay, all right, fine. We represent the Chiefs, Royals, whatever it is you want to represent, the minorities, 18 Divine, Kaufman Foundation, whatever you represent from Kansas City, but are you really helping the people? Though?
Yeah. Is it just for show?
Like, are you wearing a KC hat just because it look good? Or are you really in the trenches on 18th and Vine? Are you really in the community helping people out? Are you really in schools talking to kids? And I can say I do that. I've been doing it. I ain't gonna stop doing it. Man. So that's one thing I'm super proud of, is that when I do represent Kansas City, it's all the way.
Yeah.
It's from head to toe. It ain't just on the head.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
That's why you blessed me. Shout out to you.
Appreciate you.
That's why you blessed. All right, I got a couple questions. So if you could, I'm gonna ask this two ways. If you could speak to either Brian, the younger self, when he was going through everything and he didn't know how it was gonna work out, or somebody else who might be in the same boat that you were in, what would you tell them to encourage them to keep pursuing and keep persevering?
Follow your spirit. That conscience that's talking to you that you be ignoring, that's telling you the right thing, I always feel like that's God talking to you. So if it don't feel good in your spirit when you're doing it, whatever that may be, and this is applicable in whatever situation it is in life, if it don't feel right in your spirit and it's not going to make you feel good after, and not like an hour after, I'm talking about weeks, months, years
Can't
after,
live with it.
Don't do it.
Right.
Because that's all I lived off of, Bree, before I was really able to discover like what my spirit is actually telling me and saying to me.
Yeah.
I was just going with the wind, going with what feels the best and what feels good. And so but if you do know and you are in tune with your spirit and you decide to go against it, it's like it can't help you. You know, whatever happens to you,
you're gonna pay for it. That's law. That's literally the law of life. What it is, what you put out is what you're gonna get back in return. Yeah. I love that, and I love hearing, like, learning this side about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, we hear you on the air and see the things, but I love just learning who Brian is as a person. And I'm sure that somebody else watching this will be encouraged by this.
So do I, because this is new.
Yeah,
I ain't never talked like this except for the past couple years or so. I told you, I'm just now finding out who I am. And it's like, it's odd. It's odd for me to say that because when I was younger, when I was little, I was like, discover who you are. You're you. Mm-hmm. But then if I were to go, I remember going on interviews, like job interviews. Tell me something about yourself. And it's the hardest thing it's the hardest question that you can ask me. I could never come up with an answer. It's like, I like the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I like playing the game. I like football. I didn't know what I was about. What I stood for. Now, if I felt some type of way, of course, I'm not finna do something that I don't feel good doing.
Yeah.
But what are my morals? What are my ethics? What are some things that I'm absolutely against or for, or things that I absolutely had that I couldn't tell you that. Now, you know.
Yeah, it takes time, but I encourage you to do more of this. Do more of sitting with yourself, discovering yourself, doing things by yourself, enjoying time with your wife. Like, you are your greatest asset, you know, like who you are, what you enjoy. Because if you are empty, like I was saying earlier, you can't be good for nothing else. Not your career, not your woman, not your family. So, like, just don't neglect being in this process. You know what I'm saying? And take time. I want to leave you with this. Like, take time to smell your roses, because you do have an impact here. Like, I'm watching you. I'm rooting for you from afar. And just know, like, you got people who are inspired by your greatness. And I think that people are going to enjoy hearing this side of Brian B. Shynin. So thank you so much for doing that on my show. Like, thank you for your time. Like, I'm very grateful for it. I'm excited. Thank you so much for joining me.
Bree, I appreciate you, man. To the top, man.
To the top for sure. So one last thing before we go.
Yeah.
Let It Be has a playlist. So I created this playlist. It's basically like a pick-me-up bank. And I'm going to tell you, it ain't nothing ratchet on there. I got the ratchet music, but it ain't on there. Right. But this playlist is basically like a pick-me-up bank. Like, I'm feeling like I need something. I don't know what I need, but I need something. And for me, music has always been like my saving grace. Yeah. Can you tell me up to 3 songs that just off the top of your head that you can think of? It's like, dang, when I ain't feeling it or when I need to be inspired, I listen to this song.
Ooh.
It ain't gotta be gospel, but just no booty shaking.
Well, okay, let me throw in one. I want to throw in, like, CeCe and BB Winans' Heaven. I love that song. Okay. It's like a more of an up-tempo. It came out like 89, 90. It's like, it ain't New Jack Swing. It's like, but it's I love that song. It's positive. it made me think about heaven. It makes me think about like the way that they describe heaven. Of course, it's from the Bible or whatever, but the way they sing it, man, like I'm telling you, BB and CC Wine is heaven. That is my song.
Okay.
I guess one that makes me happy and makes me think about my childhood kind of is like The System, Don't Disturb This Groove.
Okay.
I love that song to death.
I'm gonna look that up. I don't think I ever heard that.
What? Yes, you had. Dun 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 dun. Nope. No.
I don't know. It's not refreshing my memory right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna play it in the car.
2 songs you need, and then the last one. I want to go like Sounds of Blackness, but I'm sure Optimistic
I love that song.
Already in there.
No, it's like, not. It's not. I know that song though.
Somebody else had that. I
need to add that to it. That is like a feel good song though.
You know what? It's a million songs I could choose, but I'm gonna just choose this one because I love this beat so much. Ashanti Baby. I love that song.
That got something in it. I don't know what it is. Bro, look, it's like a summertime feel good song.
Look, it's a stepper. And it's like, look, I'm thinking like just the greatest songs of the 2000s that were not appreciated in the 2000s. That's a playlist that I want to make up. And Ashanti Baby, like it was a banger. I think that was at the end of the album, end of the album run. That was like the 3rd single, and I think we were kind of tired of Ashanti's album by that point.
We love you, Ashanti.
But that song right there, bro. Oh my! Like now, it's one of the greatest songs ever.
I love that. But I'm gonna add them to the playlist. But before we get out of here, how can people support you? What you got going on?
Oh man, Hustle and Shine in the morning. Every weekday morning. Shouts to Deanna. Love that girl, man. She is such a beast. But yeah, man, if you want to know everything that's going on in Kansas City, tap into the show there. Okay. And I record every show, so I post those up. Also, Brian's World, if you want to get the football side of me, talking Chiefs and other things, tap into the Brian's World podcast. Shout out to my fam at Foolish Club Media. Okay. You can find that at Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts at. But yeah, just follow me on all my socials. Whatever social you're on, I'm on at Brian B. Shynin. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, wherever.
A lot of things. Brian B. Shynin. Yeah. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Fergie. You can follow the podcast at Let It Be Podcast. But it has been such a great pleasure talking to you, B. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing. Thank y'all for listening. I hope that it has been a joy. Again, shout out to MADE MOBB. Thank you for letting me use the space.
Yes. Thank you for letting me use the restroom too, MADE MOBB.
Listen, shout out.
It was very clean. Loved it.
Pull up on MADE MOBB, y'all. But until next time, I will talk to y'all later. Bye. Say bye, bro.
Bye.